I'd now like to introduce Assemblymember Marty Block of San Diego, who was one of the co-sponsors of the Fred Korematsu Day bill, which moved along the education track during the legislative process. He's here to share the story of how the Fred Korematsu Day concept became a reality. Please welcome Assemblymember Marty Block.
Hey, thank you all. It is so great to be here, along with my colleagues from the Assembly, the Legislature, and the Senate. It's not often we come into a room and have people thank us. Given the budget, we're going to hear from the governor in his State of the State tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a long time until we speak for a happy audience again, so we'll make the most of it. My job is to talk a little bit along with Assemblymember Furutani about the making of the law, not the meaning of the law. That will come later. But it's difficult to separate the two. Let me just say that we start every assembly session with the Pledge of Allegiance. And as you all know, the Pledge of Allegiance ends with the phrase, with liberty and justice for all. Well, unfortunately, we all know there was a period in our country, many periods in our country, unfortunately, where there was not liberty and justice for all. And this day, and Fred's experience and the experience of Japanese Americans throughout the country, particularly in the West, set the example for how we should not act as Americans. I'm a Jewish American. During the time of the Japanese internment in this country, I have relatives in Germany and Poland who were in other camps. And while the horrors may have been different, the horror that had happened in this country is absolutely repulsive to me as an American. And it's important, just as folks not forget the concentration camps of Germany, it's important people never forget the internment that occurred in this country. And that's what this day is all about. It's about Fred Korematsu. It's also about, in general, the importance of civil liberties in the Constitution. And when a group of San Diegans came to me, and this effort gained a lot of momentum in San Diego, many of you know that, for probably 20, 25 years in San Diego, there were a group of people who pushed for a Korematsu Day. Judge Lillian Lim, Susan Wu, a physician named Mitz Tomato, they came to my office and they said, Marty, you know, we've been trying over and over again. We need an assembly member, a legislator to stand up and author a bill honoring Mr. Korematsu and honoring what he stood for. And I said, I did a teach, my background as a social studies teacher in junior high school for years before I made it to San Diego State University, where I worked for 20 plus years as a professor, and then the assembly. And my passion is education. And we can't change the past always, but we can prevent the past from being repeated by teaching our children and their children. So I went to my good friend in the Assembly, Warren Furutani, and Warren's family had been involved in these efforts over the years. And he'll be up here in just a minute or two to tell you more about how the bill progressed through the legislature from the point that Warren became involved and authored the legislation and did a wonderful job of advocating for the legislation as it went through the Assembly and the Senate. And Senator Corbett and others who were here with us advocated in that other house. So that we really never ran into obstacles. Once we got the bill rolling, in this day and age, finally people understand that this is the right time, that frankly it's way past the right time for a day honoring Fred and honoring what he stands for. So let me just conclude by, again, thanking you for allowing me to come and speak with you, but more than that, thanking you for bringing to me an idea, legislation. Not everything we do in Sacramento has a great impact on the future and on generations to come. This is something I'm so proud to be a part of because I think it will live way beyond myself, Mr. Furutani, and others in this room. Thank you all.
Thank you, Assemblymember Block. And now, please welcome the other co-sponsor of the Fred Korematsu Day bill, Assemblymember Warren Furutani, who represents South Los Angeles County. Assemblymember Furutani has more than 40 years of experience in education and public service. He has served as the president of both the Los Angeles Board of Education and the Community College Board of Trustees. Please welcome Assemblymember Warren Furutani.
Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. I appreciate this opportunity to speak about the great Korematsu Day, but more than that, I appreciate the fact that just coming here has been sort of a bit of a reunion. So many friends and colleagues in the audience that have been doing and laboring in the vineyard and fighting for civil rights for decades. I am honored to be a part of this gathering along with all of you that are here. We all know that in looking at particularly Fred Korematsu Day, it's one of those situations where an individual, and I don't know what Fred ate that morning, I don't know if he was particularly pissed off, I don't know if he was just straight fed up. Karen can talk about that, ask can his wife. But apparently he got up one day and said, damn it, I am just not going to do this. It's wrong. And I don't know what that woman... I don't know what happened to that woman during all day working in Montgomery, Alabama, tired, got on the bus, sat there, as she should, was her right, and really, because she was probably just really tired. Someone came up and said, hey, you can't sit there, you have to go to the back of the bus. And she said, no, I'm not going to the back of the bus. Or, looking at this student during a demonstration, walking in Tiananmen Square, stop in front of a line of 4 tanks and impede their progress toward a demonstration, and just stand as an obstacle against what he thinks is wrong. What all of that is, in my opinion, from where I sit, is an example of democracy, where people realize that as one single individual, you can change the world. You can change the world. And that's what makes Fred Korematsu so special. That simmering desire, that persistence, that stick-to-itness, that gaman, to continue to fight and let that demand for justice simmer after going to a local court, to the United States Supreme Court, and then 40 years later, go to the place where he would be vindicated. But when I was brought the bill, the story of Fred Korematsu was not new to me by any means. I get introduced as a lot of things, but one of my proudest sources of introduction is the fact that I'm the son-in-law of Aiko Herzog Yoshinaga. And Aiko, those of you know, along with her husband Jack, was along with Peter Irons when they talked with Fred about a coram nobis strategy relative to the information that she had dug up in the archives about what really happened and what truly was the motivation for Japanese being put in camp during World War II. But I just wanted to share this one thing with all of you in the audience. Marty, myself, and all that we work with in the legislature, Karen, the Institute, and all that were such strong advocates, particularly out of the San Diego area with this specific effort, all of that involved, who I give credit for passing this bill, is primarily the Japanese American community, the Asian Pacific American community, and the civil rights community. For decades, from going to pilgrimages, redress reparations, fighting for all of the different things we've done, there's always been a component of educating the public relative to this important chapter in American history. And I'm here to tell you that when we brought the bill to the floor, to the policy committees, both in the State Assembly and the State Senate, there was not one no vote. Like many of you in the audience, I've been doing this a long time. And I remember people hollering out from different gatherings or different meetings and talking about how the camps never existed. Or people saying, that's right, you bombed Pearl Harbor, you should have been put in camp. All of those attitudes that we had to confront and deal with over 40 years. But in that process, what has taken hold is that fundamental spark for the demand for democracy that was in the heart and soul of Fred Korematsu, Gordon Hirabayashi, Min Yasui, Mitsui Endo, people that fought that issue on behalf of our community. That smoldering ember burned and grew to a prairie fire, where people will come out and fill an auditorium on the first ever Fred Korematsu Day of Civil Liberties and the Constitution, where people will now use it as a teaching moment, not only in law school, but in all of our schools in the state of California, and I hear already there's other efforts going on in other states as well. And as they learn about this extraordinary American, Fred Korematsu, what they're also going to learn is the value of civil liberties, of the ability of the Constitution to correct itself and make change as a fundamental democratic institution. So what we celebrate today is a great American. What we celebrate today is individuals that came together, the many attorneys and law students and people and advocates that fought this fight with Fred for the Quorum Novus petition and vacated the decision of the United States Supreme Court. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you today and for the first ever Fred Korematsu Day. Thank you.